Hello and welcome to my review of the Warhammer 40,000 Conquest magazine, issue 35. Apologies that this is a little bit later than usual, coming off of the first look of issue 35, but I wanted them to be in consecutive order. So this is the magazine. It's got a picture of the Primaries Chaplain on the front. This is the model that you get with it. You don't get any extra heads or different weapons, which kind of sucks. Chaplains that could have a plasma pistol or some kind of helmetless chaplain holding his helmet, that would be pretty good as well. But this skull kind of helm is kind of like a badge of office as much as the Rosarius. Anyway, we'll have a look at the model in detail in a moment. Let's have a look at the magazine itself. So you've got a little bit about chaplains. Intimidating figures even for the Space Marines. You've got chapter cults there. You've got the war gear, so you've got skeletal armor, it says. You've got the Crozius Arcanum, which is this rod, kind of like a rod of office. You've got the holy reliquaries there, and then you've got the tomb of litanies, and you've got the absolver bolt pistol. But no note there of the aforementioned Rosarius, which is the little kind of force field shield generator thing that they carry, that gives them that amazing 4+ invulnerable save, which is usually used to be the main reason why you took them, even though they only had 2 wounds. Back here it does show the Rosarius, though other than on the other page it says a Rosarius is a force field generator in the form of a holy icon worn on a chain. Typically it's some kind of badge that's around their neck or something, but this time, this chaplain has it just around his wrist, which if we see there, it's kind of tightly wrapped around there, and that little double eagle thing offers him that 4+ invulnerable. Yeah, amazing, right? Amazing. Age of the Imperium, so a bit of history there. Litany of Hatred, so a bit of fiction there for the next 2 pages. How to build the chaplain, very simple, easy to build, I want to say. Doesn't take too long. This has actually come out for some reason. Yeah, he's just in 2 main parts, and then you've got his legs and the other bits and pieces to go on. How to paint him. Nice jolly Christmas colours there. And there. And then a sacred defence, so it's a mission number 19. Defend the shrine. And then his data sheet there as well. We'll go through his rules in a little moment, and then a couple of pages aren't really worth anything, and then a preview of the next 2 issues, which are a little bit lackluster. You've got some more ruins there for your mat, and then you've got 2 paints and a shade. Athonian Camera Shade's quite good though, and Steel Legion Drab is, I use that on the the rim of the bases. So that's the magazine itself. Let's have a look at the chaplain, and then we'll do some size comparisons and rules. So it's a decent model. Again, doesn't have any options, any changes in pose. He just has this pose normally, holding this Crozius up there, which is this power weapon, and his absolver bolt pistol. It's got a little skull, which is quite a nice detail there, hanging from the absolver bolt pistol. He's got the holy reliquaries there, which is this extra bit that you sort of glue on. He's got that massive holster on the front for his pistol. He's got this tome there, and some more pouches, and just a normal power plant, but it's got this like halo thing above it, which is good. It sort of sets the model up, I feel, when they've got these kind of like halos on. And plenty of skulls there on his armour, and you can see the skeletal features of the armour there, and you see his kind of badge of office on his right shoulder pauldron. So a fair bit of detail. He's in the blue plastic, which is same as the normal plastic, but just blue, obviously. If you bought him separately, he will cost you £22.50, so the magazine is saving you a huge amount, really. It's saving you, what, £14.50 or so, which is immense. It's one of the reasons to pick up this magazine separately if you haven't already got one of these chaplains. I've already got one of these chaplains, so it kind of sucks a bit, but I'm going to paint them slightly different colours to single them out. Let me show you some size comparisons then. So because you get Death Guard in this magazine, I'll show you them next to a normal Plague Marine. Let's just move that magazine out of the way. for a moment. So there you go. Let me just zoom in a bit more. So he's a tiny bit taller, just a tiny bit, but all intents and purposes they're pretty much the same size, which you'd kind of expect because this one is very, very bloated and enlarged Space Marine. And then next to the Blightlord Terminator, Blightlord Terminator is bigger, certainly bulkier, and the head is just like half a head higher. Next to some normal Space Marines, so here's a normal kind of Legacy Space Marine. Yeah, this Legacy Space Marine is just up to the chest plate of the Chaplain, and the Primaries, normal Primaries, I think they are, yeah, they're the same size. I think the normal Primaries is a little bit taller, just probably because of the pose though, more than anything. If you get a few of the other intercessors that are in normal kind of poses, then the Chaplain's going to stand out, especially on that big base. But his Rod of Office, that Crozius, definitely sets him apart there. Okay, so I hope those size comparisons have helped. Let me go through all of the rules for the Primaris Chaplain. I'm taking them from the brand new Space Marine Codex that came out in September. You'll find him in the very bloated HQ section of the book. He's a power points cost of a 4 and a points cost of 77. He's the same power points cost as the normal Chaplain, but only 5 points more. His stat line reads: movement of 6 inches, weapon skill 2+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 4, toughness 4, 5 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 9, and a save of 3+. How does that compare to the normal Chaplain? Well, he gets 1 more wound and 1 more attack, and obviously he's armed with the Absolver bolt pistol rather than a normal bolt pistol, which has a better range of by 4 inches of 16 inches and a better strength of 5, and is actually an AP -1, even though it's the same damage, so it's worth it just for that longer range pistol, really, apart from the extra wound and the extra attacks. Ever since the Chaplains first came out and they only had 2 wounds, I've always wanted them to have more. Now this is a fantastic unit now that actually has 5 wounds and is a decent HQ choice on his own. So it's a single model equipped with Absolver bolt pistol, Crozius Arcanum, frag grenades and crack grenades. Now it doesn't say that he's got Rosarius, but it does say that's part of his abilities rather than a war gear thing. And I guess that is because the Rosarius is a piece of war gear that's ubiquitous to these Chaplains, and you know, they don't just have them in a box somewhere that you could just go pick one out. So the Absolver bolt pistol, I've already read the stat line for that. The Crozius Arcanum is a melee weapon. It's a strength +1, AP -1, and a damage of 2. So it's a strength of 5. Then it's all right. You know, the AP -1. It would have been nice if it was like a proper power weapon, like a power sword or something, with an AP -2 or even 3. Because of the way power weapons work, they all have different armor penetrations now. Before, a power sword or a Crozius was basically the same. This is going back quite a few years, and they both ignored normal saves. Now they're just reducing the armor penetration. He's got frag grenades and crack grenades which work as normal. He's got the abilities then. It's Angels of Death. He's got the Rosarius, so the model has a 4+ invulnerable save, so it's not too bad. 3+ normal, 4+ invulnerable. And then Spiritual Leaders. Friendly chapter units can use this model's leadership characteristic instead of their own whilst they're within 6 inches of this model. I mean, that's all right because normal Space Marine leadership is only a 7, so having them as a leadership 9 is pretty useful. Priest. This model knows the Litany of Hate and 1 litany from the litanies of battle. At the start of the battle round, this model can recite 1 litany it knows that has not already been recited by a friendly model that battle round. Roll 1d6. On a 3+, the recited litany is inspiring and takes effect until the end of that battle round. And the Litany of Hate, if the litany is inspiring, you can reroll hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by models in friendly chapter units whilst their unit is within 6 inches of this model. So that's a good ability to have, to just re-roll those failed hit rolls for attacks. So if you've got a group of Space Marines, let's face it, they're going to be having weapon skills of 3+ anyway, usually. So it's not going to be too difficult to hit. But if you get those 2s and 1s, this Chaplain is going to prove invaluable, especially if you've got a unit that has a lot of attacks and you're facing something that affects those attacks That's the scenario I'd put that out there. Keywords: Imperium, Adeptus Astartes, Character, Infantry, Primaris, and Priest, Chaplain. Now, I'm reading the rules set, the data sheet from the new Space Marine Codex, or the Primaris Codex as I like to call it, that came out in September. The issue 35, I would have thought, came out April time, maybe even May. So it's behind the times. I'll give it that. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. In your issue 35, it only has litanies of hate, so it doesn't have, you know, the litanies of battle sheet that the Codex has. So if you are using the data sheet from issue 35 of the Conquest magazine, you are going to be at a deficit because you're missing out on those other litanies that the Chaplain can take. Also in issue 35, he has this ability called Codex Discipline, where units can still shoot in a turn in which they fall back, but if they do so, they must subtract 1 from the hit rolls in the shooting phase. Now, I would have actually liked to have seen that ability still for the Chaplain, and for me that would have made him so much more useful and almost like an auto-include. You know, if you're typically facing against a foe with, you know, a more numerous foe, which Space Marines, you know, typically are. So that would have been an extra addition. I'll just read through the litanies of battle found in the Codex, because otherwise you're just missing out on that. So litanies of battle, you've got 6 here. You can roll 1d6 to generate one randomly, or you can select which litanies the model knows. So you've got 1 to 6. Number 1 is Litany of Faith. If the litany is inspiring, then when a model in a friendly chapter unit within 6 inches of this model would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, you roll 1d6. On a 5+, that wound is not lost. This is not cumulative with any similar rules. That's absolutely awesome, Litany of Faith. It means, you know, 5+, you don't get that mortal wound. Fantastic. It's like a feel no pain for mortal wounds, really. Or it's almost like an invulnerable save, I suppose. Number 2 is Catechism of Fire. If this litany is inspiring, select one friendly chapter unit within 6 inches of this model. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a model in that unit against the closest viable enemy unit to the model, add 1 to the wound roll. That could be useful. 3 is Exhortation of Rage. If this litany is inspiring, select one friendly chapter unit within 6 inches of this model. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in that unit on a unmodified hit roll of 6, you can make 1 additional attack against the same unit using the same weapon. This additional attack cannot generate another attack. 4, Mantra of Strength. If this litany is inspiring, add 1 to this model's attacks and strengths characteristic, and add 1 to the damage characteristic of melee weapons this model is equipped with. That's absolutely crazy. So that's not other friendly models, that's actually him. So you get 1 extra attack, 1 extra strength, 1 to the damage of melee weapons. Fantastic, that one. 5 is Recitation of Focus. If this litany is inspiring, select one friendly chapter unit within 6 inches of this model. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a model in that unit, add 1 to the hit roll. That could be useful. And the last one, number 6, is Canticle of Hate. If this litany is inspiring, add 2 to charge rolls made for friendly chapter units whilst they are within 6 inches of this model. In addition, when a friendly chapter unit makes a pile-in or consolidate move within 6 inches of this model, models in that unit can move up to an additional 3 inches. This is not cumulative with any other ability that adds to a unit's charge roll or increases the distance it can pile in or consolidate. That could be useful if you're using him with kind of assault specific units, possibly like aggressors or something, or terminators. That would be quite brilliant. I like how these litanies of battle, it doesn't matter whether it's a Primaris Chaplain or a normal Chaplain, you can use them for all of your units, so it really helps with the synergy that this unit brings to your force. And on that note, that is the end of my review of issue 35. I hope it was useful to you. What do you guys think of the issue and the model and chaplains in general? Please do put your comments below. It's always great to read them and have that feedback. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.